voting.
Nice.
I've been tested. Of course, it doesn't say I'm clean. It
Right.
says you're tested.
Jim calling in.
Yep, Jim's on.
There you
Hi.
go, Tom.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi.
Hi.
How's your vacation, Jim?
So far, so good, although the weather today was a little questionable.
All right. Well, we're on, so we will start. Good evening and welcome to the August 25th, 2020 meeting of the Board of Selectmen. And one of the things I'm going to start doing is letting you know who's actually here because sometimes you can't see them all. With me tonight in person is Bill Wrigley, our town administrator, Megan Birch McMichael, Ellen Sturgis, Courtney Fresha, and Jim Salvi is zooming in, so you probably all can see him. I'm going to start off with public input. So if anybody has any public input.
Linda's waving.
Linda, you've got to unmute though. You need to unmute, Linda.
I wanted to report that the clerk's office, with a lot of helpers, have mailed out 2,420 ballots have been mailed.
Wow. Wow.
1,519 have been returned and sorted by precinct and by street and filed in boxes ready for the primary. And we have 5,549 voters, so that's a 43% turnout for a primary, which is phenomenal, and it's the most that we've had for a primary that I know of. And I am urging the other 900, actually it's 897 since there's some dropped off tonight, ballots to get returned as soon as possible because we are under the gun to get this done and get everything in for Tuesday. And Debbie and I will be here on Saturday and Sunday, so if you drive by, stop and wave or bring us an iced coffee.
That doesn't break any kind of rules?
It's under $20.
No, but we'll probably need it because we're going to be up late. But anyway, we're excited about this. We've still got people, we're doing our early voting. We're having in-person voting on the day of the primary, so if you forget or you haven't allowed enough time to get the ballots mailed, because people are still asking for them and they can ask for them till tomorrow at 5 o'clock. So, to get them mailed out. But we're doing in-person voting on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. All right, that's my spiel.
All right. Well, you took what I was going to say, so.
No, you can finish. You finish the rest because there's more detail.
Oh, a lot more detail, but I think everybody's got the idea.
Great.
All right, so chairman's comments, that's what I was going to mention, so I've got nothing there. I'm not seeing any other public input, so correspondence. Anything anybody wants? All right.
Just hoping that we can talk next time about COVID task force that I proposed that you didn't want. Are you good?
Probably not.
Well, what I'll do is I'll turn it over to Acting
Good up
Chief
here,
Sallese.
guys.
You got upstairs? All right. I think I'm going to turn it over to Mike Sallese for a minute as Acting Chief, and he can say a couple words if he'd like, and then I will read the Certificate of Appreciation.
Hello. So Darlene is retiring after many decades of participating in many different roles with the Stowe Police Department. I know that she is going to be staying on as an administrative assistant, as one of her many roles that she is already currently doing. And I thought it would be really nice that the selectmen sign this appreciation letter. She really does run the police station. You know, we couldn't have done it without her. She is truly one of the most important people that we have down there. And I really appreciate you guys doing this for her. Thank you.
All right. The Certificate of Appreciation that we have reads as follows. A Certificate of Appreciation to Darlene Trefry. Do you guys mind if I pull this down for a minute?
No, go ahead.
On this, the 25th day of August, 2020, the Stowe Board of Selectmen hereby expresses its sincere appreciation to Darlene Trefry for her many years of service to the town of Stowe Police Department. Darlene began by volunteering to assist the police department's administrative assistant and helping with the DARE program in the early 1990s. Became a police matron in 1999. In 2005, Darlene accepted a part-time clerk's position at the police department. Soon thereafter, a part-time dispatch position. Darlene became an auxiliary police officer in 2007, then a special police officer in 2011. Most notably, Darlene became a full-time public safety dispatcher in February 2008 and began her most recent position, a hybrid position consisting of public safety dispatcher and administrative assistant in 2014. As a dispatcher, Darlene has always excelled. She received letters of commendation for her quick and insightful actions during critical incidents on this and other occasions. Darlene has always gone above and beyond her duties for the town's residents and her co-workers. Though she has kept a low profile, she has been instrumental in the police department functions, assisting with the department's youth and citizens police academies, obtaining grant funds, coordinating dispatch training, and managing other department duties. Darlene has always been the go-to person and unofficially filled the role of the police department's maternal figure, always looking out for the well-being of all its members. Darlene's level of dedication is a true benchmark for all of us, and her willingness to give so much of herself to the residents and the members of the department exemplifies her outstanding character, or as she would put it, having grit. Any challenge that was put in front of her, she not only completed the task, but she exceeded all expectations. On behalf of the entire town, and particularly the police department and Board of Selectmen, we want to thank Darlene for her service and wish her a happy retirement filled with good health, happiness, enjoyment with family. Is Darlene on somewhere?
I don't believe she is. So I was planning on coming down tomorrow, picking that up, and then delivering that to her later this week.
All right, well, I'll probably try to stop by and wish her well myself.
Sounds like a plan.
Yep. Bill?
I provided some written comments in my activities report relative to Darlene, but I just want to say personally that I'm grateful for her level of dedication and seriousness in helping the town for no other reason than helping the town. It'll be difficult to match. She basically developed the police budget at times whenever the chiefs weren't there or not available. She understood the process And in preparing the budget form, which is pretty detailed that I've got, if I ever had any questions, it was Darlene that I asked. And she's always been there when it was needed, volunteered to help whenever she could. And it's hard to beat that kind of professional, so I wish her well, very well.
Anyone else have any comments? Well, I've known Darlene for quite a few years, and she's just always seemed like a very wonderful, helpful and caring person. So it's with great regret that I see her retiring, but I certainly understand the idea that she would like a little more calm time with family. Might anybody?
Tom, could I add something?
Yes, Jim.
I think it's always a bittersweet moment when a long-term employee retires who's had a big impact, but, you know, especially in this case for Darlene, because I think she's had a huge impact at the department. And in fact, you know, Phoebe has done her usual, I think, magnificent, poetic job with the certificate. But there's one part that I disagree with. Though she has kept a low profile, I don't think Darlene is that low profile at all, at least not for me. Whenever I would go to the police department, which I want to make sure everyone knows is rarely, but, you know, she's always the first person I would see, and I was always happy to see her. For me, she was the voice and the face of the Stowe Police Department, and I appreciate that. I'm going to miss her.
All right. Do we have a motion by any chance?
Sure. I move that the selectmen approve and assign a certificate for retiring special police officer Darlene Trefry.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The four
Aye.
here, and I
Aye.
vote aye also. So Jim, Megan, Ellen, and Courtney, and myself, it's unanimous. And I shall sign.
Tom?
Yes. Yes, Linda.
I just wanted to say that I know that Darlene has been so helpful for all of us here too, and a pleasure working with, and I'm sure I speak with other colleagues in the town building. Cheerful, bright, smiling, helpful, kind, and we're glad that she's sticking around a little longer, but will definitely be missed in her capacity in other parts as dispatch when you call. There's such a calm voice at dispatch. Thank you, Darlene.
Thank you, Darlene.
All right, Mike, this will be here in the office. If you give me a quick text when you come down to pick it up, I'll see if I can't go with you to give it to her also.
Okay, I'll give you a call
Right.
when that's going to happen.
Thank you very much. And the next item on the agenda is discussion of appointment of special police officer and appointment of special police officer and dispatcher. And for that, I'm going to turn this over to Acting Chief Sallese again.
Thank you. So with Darlene retiring, this is going to cause an opening for a dispatcher. And originally, John Butler, who has been a dispatcher or was a dispatcher with us for 15 years, has been working as a patrol officer under a waiver, and it was planned on him attending the full-time police academy. John is now not attending the academy due to an injury, and so we'd like him to return to the position that he was originally in to take the opening that Darlene has now created. So that is what I'm asking him. He was a full-time dispatcher and a special police officer with us, been with us for 15 years, and he's still with us as far as still working. He was just doing it as a different capacity.
Bill, any comments?
Again, I provided a brief narrative in my activities report. This, when the board approved to appoint John a year ago under the temporary waiver which the state allows, it was explained at that time that in the event that he was unable to attend the academy, or worse, if he wasn't able to finish the academy once he started, that he would return to the dispatch position. And so that's what's occurred here. And he's going back to what he's been doing for years and doing well. We had hoped, because we're having great difficulty in filling police officer slots, along with other municipal positions we have, but particularly police. Years ago, you would get 30, 40, 50 candidates. Not finding it now, we're having trouble finding one or two that are minimally qualified. So we were hoping to essentially produce our own by sending to the academy a qualified person who was interested. He's been a special police officer, so he has the minimal training for the street. And many communities now are doing that. They're taking someone themselves, not only sponsoring, but paying for the academy, because systemically there's trouble filling police officer slots.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? All right. Do we have a motion then?
I'll make a motion. On the recommendation of the police department, I move to appoint John Butler as a special police officer and dispatcher for the Town of Stowe Police Department, effective September 1st, 2020, for a term expiring June 30th, 2021.
Second?
Right. All in favor? Megan, aye. Courtney, aye. Ellen, aye. Jim?
Aye.
And chair votes aye, so it's unanimous.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank
Right.
you very much.
Thank you, Mike, and have a nice evening.
You too. Thank you.
Next up is a certificate of appreciation for our retiring town administrator, Mr. Wrigley. And before I read that, I suppose my comments is that I've worked with Bill. It's got to be going over 20 to 25 years now. I don't even remember how long it's been. But Bill has always provided incredible guidance to the town. He's been very passionate about it, and I think he's always had the best interests of the town at heart. He puts in long hours, and he generally seems to have all the answers when we need them. But he's done a fabulous job, and I'm definitely going to miss him, both professionally and personally. It's going to be a different time and place, but I'm really hoping that you're going to enjoy your retirement and not go crazy doing it.
Thank you for the kind words. Appreciate it.
Anybody else like to make any comments before I read the citation? Or?
Certainly. I have not known Mr. Wrigley for anywhere near as long as you, but in the few years that I've been on either the Community Preservation Committee or the Conservation Commission, and now in my capacity here, I've had various reasons to visit Bill's office and ask questions about process or just advice or his opinion. And he's always been kind and gracious and given me a thoughtful answer and very respectful. And I'm appreciative of your demeanor and also of the support that I felt, so that I could feel that I could continue to learn as I go as a volunteer in town government. And that's been, I think without that backing, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much or felt as interested in continuing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ellen, Megan?
Just thank you for everything.
Jim?
Especially your ability to give us the information when we needed it, and that's a lot to ask for all the stuff you've had to do, so always appreciated that.
Jim?
Similarly to Courtney, I always got a lot of support from Bill, but more than that, over the time that I've been a selectman, I've come to consider him a friend. And I will miss him on a personal level as well as a professional level. Like I said last time, in terms of the measure of his success, I think of what I believe this town government was like when he started here, and I look at it now, and the difference is just amazing. He has so much to be proud of. Again, I'm really pleased with the certificate that I assume Phoebe put together. I am glad that she didn't include more of his favorite phrases. She only has a couple. We didn't clutter it up with deliverables and distinction without a difference. I'll miss even those phrases. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
And I'll say thank you, Bill, as well, even though we've not worked together for that long. But I do appreciate the couple of times I've needed to talk to you. And thank you.
Craig, I know you weaseled your way in here, so.
Me?
No, Craig.
Oh, Craig.
Craig did.
I didn't want to have it, thought the room might be empty, so I wanted to make sure that I came in, but I wanted to say a few words as well. So I've been with Bill for 13 years now. He's always been a consummate professional. And for some of the same reasons that Courtney mentioned, when I first came here and started my position, Bill, as busy as he was, and what it was, took the time, take me aside, show me more about municipal than I ever knew, because I always worked on the public side. And so that was extremely beneficial. And I thank him for that. And we got a lot of mutual background experiences in engineering, and so I think he helped me, and hopefully I helped him a little bit along the way. But it's been a wonderful time with Bill, and we are going to miss him. So happy retirement, Bill, and look forward to seeing you somewhere down the road.
Appreciate it. A few words. After 28 years, and
Am I getting you on there? There we go.
it's been, I couldn't, when I first started here, imagined 28 years later still being in one place. It's not as common as it once was. Our fathers in previous generations would start a job and tended to stay there unless some motivation to move on. And here, using the term good fit, I suppose, which is pretty common today, but for me specifically, the fit was that, and I've said this before, that the governing culture here is different. I've been elected official in more than one community, worked as a consulting firm for municipalities. There's a distinction with, well, I won't say it, I won't use that term. I've always felt that, and this is true of everyone who participates in our democratic process in this town, if you provide to them at town meeting, at a selectmen's meeting, across the table during operations, you provide any of our constituents, employees, board members, residents, with a thoughtful, meaningful, honest explanation and description of what it is that you're either proposing for a program or a project, or the budget, which basically is mine each year, or this position each year. I've never felt that you wouldn't get the outcome that was deserved. Whether it was the one you proposed or not would be different, but there's a sense of community honesty in here, and genuine, heartfelt interest in the community that's served here. And I've had that, from the Bill Byrons who come in my office, or all the way up to Representative Kate Hogan, who's our esteemed representative. There's something about Stowe. It became my second home. Never looked to leave, and accept her retirement. And so I'm grateful to have gotten fortunate to land in a sweet spot. And it was a sweet spot, it is, and I'm hoping and I'm expecting that that's going to continue. I think my replacement is, it's a very good fit for her as well. We're meeting again Friday. We've met already, and you've met her and spoken with her, and I think anybody that has, and the interview itself was revealing to me and instructive because of the questions that I was asking were obviously tied to the position, budget process, finances. You go down the list of things, and I call them professionals of practice. Many times you'll see a resume, and when you ask questions relative to it, you don't get that feeling that they may have as extensive working knowledge as it might reflect on paper. She matched it, in my opinion, and so again, I think Stowe is going to be very fortunate, and I think she'll be very fortunate. I've told her that. I think she's going to be successful here, and I think more importantly, she's going to enjoy it here. And the good people of Stowe, all of you, are going to make that the case. So thank you. It's been a good run.
Now I will read our fine document here in praises of Bill. A certificate of appreciation to Bill Wrigley. On this, the 25th day of August 2020, the Stowe Board of Selectmen hereby expresses its sincere appreciation to Bill Wrigley for outstanding service as town administrator for the town of Stowe. As Stowe's first and only town administrator, Bill has set the bar high for any successor. Since 1992, he has served the town of Stowe faithfully with passion, wisdom, and practicality. Starting with a challenging financial position 28 years ago, a large part of his legacy is leaving Stowe in an enviable situation with a budget surplus and a AAA credit rating for which the town can be thankful. Over the years, Bill has worked with over 30 members of the Board of Selectmen, guiding them with facts and recommendations that were always in the best interest of the town. His wisdom and common sense approach have served the town well over the years and can be summed up in a few of his favorite comments. Improvise, adapt, and overcome, and don't sacrifice the good for the perfect. This approach has set the tone for numerous projects Bill has overseen and been involved in, including the building projects for Hale Middle School, Center School, the fire station, and the Fire Station Community Center. On behalf of the entire town, the Board of Selectmen want to thank Bill for his service and wish him a happy retirement filled with good health, happiness, enjoyment of family, and doubtless further service in town government in his hometown of Orange. Might I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Selectmen approve and sign a certificate of appreciation for retiring Town Administrator Bill Wrigley.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Courtney, Ellen, Megan, Jim?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So it's unanimous. I wouldn't have expected anything.
I feel like we should clear one. So anticlimactic.
Thank you.
And that's it. The countdown has begun. Five working days left. And the reason we're
Well,
doing...
who's counting?
Yeah. The reason we're doing, for anybody who doesn't realize it, Bill's last day is on Monday, August 31st.
Last day of August.
So, and
Denise begins the next day.
Yep.
So my 1 day a week part-timer
Yep.
will be Tuesday when she comes in, so. And I'll be moving upstairs to the 3rd floor in the space that we've used for other part-time workers.
But, I don't know, Bill, it's been a good run.
That's what I'd say.
And you're making it out alive, which is always a good thing.
Better than the alternative, I know that.
Yep. Okay. On to the next thing. And now we have a special guest that has zooming in to do something similar. We have Representative Kate Hogan. Kate, how are you today?
Oh, I'm great, and thank you for having me in on this particular device where we're doing some things and being able to move between. But I would never, ever forgive myself if I were not at Bill Wrigley's last meeting of the town, and wanted to come in, zoom in, and wish you all the best for an amazing retirement, Bill. You were, over the years, so full of stories and opinions, and we had such great times. But what I will never forget is your heart. It is fierce and it is loyal. And I have learned much by listening to you. And I don't know if we always agreed on things, but I think we respected each other for how clear and honest we could be with each other, which did not ever mean that we weren't loyal in the work that we were doing for the town. And I want to say that you are one of those people that in the foxholes of municipal government or state government, I would certainly want you there.
Thank you.
Thank you for your years of hard work, your dedication to the town of Stowe, and congrats on your retirement. I'm going to be reading a citation quickly, but if I may, a brief Irish toast. To all the days here and after, may they be filled with fond memories, happiness, and laughter. And I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart, Bill. And so, from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I bring you a famous citation, and hereby be it known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to William J. Wrigley in recognition of the occasion of your retirement from 28 years of dedicated service as the town administrator to the town of Stowe. Entire membership extending its best wishes, and certainly offered with gratitude and love from State Representative Kate Hogan. Good luck and great voyage, Bill Wrigley. I'm sure we'll see you around.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kate. And of course, one of the things that I forgot to do is, because handshaking is not like allowed anymore, I think, it's illegal now. But what I will do is I'll hand you the thing and I'll bump elbows with you, Bill. How's that?
Good enough.
Okay.
Appreciate it very much. You and I will see each other.
Oh, yeah. I'll bet you Jim will even come in and sign that eventually.
If I can find the time.
Yeah. Next on the agenda is a discussion about hiring of a highway department laborer. And I would imagine we have Steve Nadeau on there somewhere. Is that Superintendent Steve Nadeau?
I'm here.
All right. Well, if you can, we've read what you have sent in. If you can just give a quick overview for the folks at home, that would be great.
Okay, so everybody remembers Colin Toronto was hired for the temporary position that we had come available when Derek was deployed with the Army overseas, called back to duty. Colin came in as a laborer, and while Derek was gone, we had a member move to another job that opened up a truck driver laborer's position. And Colin has been the only one to apply. With him being here temporarily, we've been able to work with Colin, see his work ethics, and get to know Colin, see if he's a good fit. Feel that he's a good fit, he's motivated, he wants to learn. The job is actually starting to learn how to operate the equipment to go get his operator's license for the hydraulics, the vacuum
I've actually talked to Superintendent Nadeau, and he said that he's working out very well, works hard, and I suppose he's the last man standing too, but we're lucky to have him. So, that being said, and I think you'd already given your 2 cents worth, Bill. So, could we have a motion, please?
On the recommendation of the highway superintendent, I move to authorize the town administrator to hire Colin Taranto as truck driver laborer for the town of Stowe Highway Department.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
I vote aye, so it is unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve, and tell Colin we're happy that he's on board and not just temporary anymore.
Very much.
Next on the agenda is discussion and vote for a special liquor license for the Decibels Foundation Golf Tournament on Monday, September 21st. And this is something this is going to be held at the Wedgewood Pines Country Club. It's something that they have done in the past. And based on the materials that we've been given, it's going to be limited to a maximum of 50 people. And pretty much maximum outdoor gathering to have 2 separate areas for attendees. So it's,
I had a question about that.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like they're having 2 separate areas, which means it goes over 50 people. So I guess I'm just concerned, who's responsible for monitoring to make sure that the town is abiding by the state regulations? It's supposed to be 50 people. It's not supposed to be 100 people in 2 adjoining rooms.
Yeah, I also had a concern about that as well. Is she on? The person who's applying for this?
Bonnie?
is Bonnie Fitzpatrick on by any chance?
I'm here.
Okay.
But also Brad Austin, the Decibels Foundation president, is on
Oh, great.
as well.
Great.
Great.
Perfect. Yeah, can you just, sorry, is it okay if I just jump in,
Yeah,
Tom?
please.
If you could just jump in on what the 2 separate areas was referring to.
So Bonnie, if you don't mind, I'll jump in. So, first of all, thanks for having us here. I'm on the Littleton School Committee for the last 6 weeks, and I appreciate your efficiency of this meeting. We've had a lot of really long ones. Our plans are we were hoping to have more than 50 people. Wedgewood Pines, we've been working with them and kind of deferring to their expertise on most of the regulations for holding golf tournaments. Our thinking was that we limited to around 80 just because of golf cart limitations, is that we would be very strict and give people, either color-coded cards or something like that, whether upstairs or downstairs. We've had a tournament there for 16, 17 years now, and if you've been to the facility, they have this really big patio in the upstairs area, but they also have a downstairs area near the putting greens and stuff that's also very large. In the past, we've had indoor banquets and raffles, and we're going all of those. But the notion was that after the golfers spend a day on the course, they may want to socialize a little bit, and we would work with the club to make sure we're following all public health guidelines, with the notion that there would be no more than 40-ish. If the upper limit's 50, that there would be strict limits with Decibel staff members, and we expect Wedgewood Pine staff members keeping a close count and monitoring that.
So, can I just jump in? So the state guideline right now says that as of August 7th, you cannot have more than 25 people indoors. So if you have the downstairs space that you're referring to, you would only be able to have 25 people, including staff and guests and whatnot.
Right. So we're anticipating having everything in the outdoors except for the restrooms.
Okay.
People would have to come inside if they have to use the restrooms. We're working with Wedgewood Pines to try to make sure people don't have to come inside, even to order a drink or pick up a drink. If so, then we would, use all the social distance protocols that restaurants use for kind of pickup orders now. But our expectation is, our plan is to have nothing inside except for restroom facilities and maybe the actual drink service. Our thinking is that they have a very large patio that can certainly accommodate more than 50 people upstairs. Not that we would do that, but it's big enough to allow for the social distancing protocols. And downstairs, they have the same sort of space. If we're not, if it's raining, I guess people wouldn't stick around anyway. But if it's not raining, then you can spill out towards there's a lot of green space near a golf course. We can spread tables out and maximize the distances between our participants.
I mean, I think what you guys are doing here is amazing, and I know as a nonprofit person myself how important these fundraisers are, so I don't want to rain on that parade, but I'm just worried about what the town's responsibility, I guess, is for ensuring the rules. I mean, I realize the golf club's gonna, they've got their own reasons to make sure it's, they're following the rules, but I'm just concerned about what Stowe's concerned, what's our perspective.
I completely understand that. As I mentioned earlier, I'm also now a town official who has to monitor those sides, but also, as you know, these are tough times for nonprofits. It's their main fundraiser of the year. That shouldn't factor into your equation, but if we have to do it at fewer than 50 golfers, then it becomes virtually meaningless for us.
Tom, can I ask a question?
Yes, Jim.
Brian, are you requiring masks?
Yes. Well, I mean, we will. At the, actually, I don't know if we'd be requiring masks. On the course, golf courses are not requiring them now, at least the ones that I've played a couple times. And we'd be following all the on-course precautions that the state and local districts mandate. No raking, leave the pins in the hole, all that stuff. Most of I've played 2 golf courses. Neither one of them required masks outdoors. When it gets to the seated area, frankly, I don't know what the guidelines are, but I promise you, whatever the guidelines are, we will follow them.
So let me be a little more specific.
Sure.
The 2 areas that you referred to that golfers will congregate at after playing, the ones with the separate bars, will masks be required there?
Whatever the guidelines are, if the guidelines, for example, it's in essence, it's an outdoor seating area, but that will allow for more spacing than a restaurant does now. Like in Littleton, we have Tavern on the Square. There are tables that have 6, 8, 12 feet between them. People don't always wear masks, I think, when they're seated at those tables, but they do when they're walking between or among them. If those are the guidelines that the state is giving us, and those are the guidelines we'll follow. I don't know if. I mean, we'll do whatever you tell us to do is the answer. But if the guideline is that I wear a mask between every drink of, in this case, of water, then we'll tell people to pull their mask up. If the guidelines are a little less strict than that, then we would follow those guidelines.
I can't quote the guidelines, but I certainly, tables are one thing. Very small people can theoretically socially distanced, or they can be. The area of concern that you mentioned for me is the idea that people go inside to get their drinks, and I assume that you're talking about 2 bars, one on the upper level, one on the lower level, correct?
That's the case, yes, sir.
My limited experience at bars tells me that people have a natural tendency to congregate around bars. So
I get your point. So what I anticipate, what Bonnie and I have actually traded messages about, is that we would have a decibel staff member inside, right at the door when people are coming in or out, or a club staff member. We have signs up that if you're indoors, you're wearing a mask. Full stop, period. And that there's no congregating at the bars at all. That's where you get your drinks and take them outside. And maybe there will be waiters. I don't know what Wedgwood Pines can provide for us. Ideally, we don't know one has to go inside at all. They can a waitress or a waiter would circulate and take an order so people can stay at their tables. I don't want to make a promise to you. I can't.
Yeah, I understand. You've answered my question. I'm
Can I-
zeroing in on, I mean, I'm thinking about a condition to your license, but I want to hear what my colleagues think. Thank you.
Yeah.
If I may speak to that, I'm sorry. It's just
Sure.
that we are very concerned about this as well. It's a golf tournament. A lot of our sponsors are parents or grandparents of deaf or hard of hearing kids or friends of them who fall in an age group that I fall into now. We're very, very sensitive to both the appearance and the reality of public health concerns. And we want to make sure people feel safe spending time with us that day. And so we will, we're just not going to let people inside without masks, full stop.
Megan?
Yep. So I guess my only concern is that we're having this conversation and we have a lot of questions, and I would like to see a plan for this before approving a liquor license for the event, because you've said, like, we'll adhere to whatever guidelines, but like, who's making the guidelines? This is a problem that I think is a bigger problem that we're trying to work through. But are you working with the Board of Health on this? Are you working with Wedgewood Pines? Are you working, I mean, this is, I'm concerned that I'm concerned that we're being asked to approve something without all of the information. And it's different in this time, normally it would be you'd come here and it's like, great, you're having this many people and whatever, but because there are so many public health issues with this, I just want to make sure that we're not opening ourselves up to, God forbid someone gets COVID there, and we open ourselves up to a lawsuit. So that's my main concern, is not feeling at this moment like I have enough information about everything that you all are going to be doing.
Marcia just joined us from Board of Health.
Great.
Marcia, are you at all up to speed on what golf course requirements are at this point?
No, I lost my power and I had to get off, and so I'm just coming back on.
Okay.
So I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, we were just trying to, I
I
mean,
can listen.
the issue is they're trying to have a fundraising golf tournament at Wedgewood, and the question is what regulations might be specific to golf courses right now regarding COVID in terms of a larger crowd. And I guess, and my question is a little bit for you guys as well as for the selectmen, is who's going to be monitoring this stuff? I mean, that's, I guess that's the, it's not something we've ever had to do before. Like, part of a liquor license isn't usually saying, I mean, we assume that the golf course is taking the responsibility of the liquor license serving, right? So in this case, are we then expecting them to also take responsibility for meeting the state requirements?
Part of it, I suppose, from my standpoint, is that all we have responsibility for is the liquor license. Now, we could hold that up. I don't know what their plans are if we deny it, whether they will still have their golf tournament, and they just will not be able to serve beer and wine.
Okay.
I think that's probably the only thing that we have control over.
Gotcha.
Now, the Board of Health may have something to say about that from their standpoint, but as far as monitoring their social distancing and things like that, the only thing that I started thinking about is that right now bars are still closed. However, they are allowing serving alcohol with food.
Right.
And so I don't know what this sounds. It's like it's more of a bar setup than a food setup.
Might not also be
If I may speak to
allowed.
that, traditionally what we've done is we've had, we provide a lunch, we provide a dinner, and the people, if they go to the bar for, like, we're talking 30, 45 minutes tops before they sit down for the dinner and the award ceremony and stuff like that. We like to, as it's a nonprofit, we want them to enjoy themselves and maybe spend that time to bid on a raffle or to bid on a silent auction item. I don't know if we'll be doing that this year. Bonnie and I have talked some, just because people will feel uncomfortable like picking up tins. So we're foregoing that part already of the fundraiser, just because we want people not inside, but also because we will. I mean, right now our plan is to provide food, whether it's a full sit down dinner or whether it is. So if that's the question, is this a bar or a restaurant? Certainly something like a safe way of providing food, be it hors d'oeuvres or served plates. I'm not sure, but traditionally that's been a part of the experience. And then as far as the requirements, in some ways we're deferring to the experts at the golf course. They've been open for months and months now, presumably following public health guidelines and rules. We're trusting they're the experts in following town guidance and state guidance for the golf parks at least.
How many people are you expecting?
Right now, they're expecting to cap us because of golf cart rentals around 80. It may creep a little higher, if some people agree to walk the course. In the past we've had 120. We're already cutting it way back. And the idea, I believe,
you cut it back further.
Well, I'm sorry.
We'll have to check on it. It
Right.
may be a 50-person limit. We'll have to check.
Okay. My understanding is that. Well, okay, that's fine.
Marcia, he had discussed, when you were cut off, he was describing there's two levels of the facility that they're gonna split up, so that
Both outdoors.
upstairs, downstairs, I think it was, right,
Yeah,
so.
and it outdoors.
And mostly outdoors, right.
All outdoors.
All outdoors, other than the drink service, which they would require masks when they went in and have a monitor at the door.
Bill,
So,
can I ask you a
I have
question?
some thoughts.
Can I ask you a question? And I just might not know this, but when we issue liquor licenses, the one-day temporary liquor licenses, what liabilities does the town take on for that liquor license? So say somebody gets wasted and they crash their car, is the town then liable because we gave a liquor license to that event?
Well, in general, it's tort law. Anybody who provides alcohol with or without a license, social, there's always liability. The question is whether you're reasonably, in this case, when you're issuing a liquor license, it's anything related to the liquor that's being sold or provided without a price, and anything related to that, what would a reasonable person have expected under those conditions? You get to set conditions that will measure as part of the condition on that form. It will say with the following conditions. So and this board often says, here's the following conditions that were, so that we feel reasonably comfortable under these circumstances as you provided honestly to us. So then if there is an incident, let's say it goes to court, a court would determine whether you were reasonable or you weren't reasonable.
Okay.
There is no definitive, but there are measurements that over time, reasonable people and the ABCC provides guidelines that you would go by on it. So
I guess where I'm going.
that's separate and distinct from anything COVID related?
Well, but I'm wondering if it's not, because then if we put in conditions saying we're issuing this license, saying that we're following the Board of Health, as long as they follow the Board of Health guidelines, then this license is valid. But I'm just trying to.
So we would be expected to be reasonable here. So to follow the guidelines, they're not I think there's confusion on the Board of Health guidelines or the DPH guidelines.
Okay.
In the end, every city and town is expected to follow the same guidelines.
Right.
Now, what level of direct involvement each city or town engages in establishing that is different. It's true. So, for the town, for example, could say, and it's part of the license, that the owner and staff of the country club is responsible for adhering to the DPH guidelines that have been established, issued, and are enforceable. That enforcement doesn't require that we send somebody up there to ensure it.
Right.
So if an incident occurs where there wasn't, and these aren't complicated, it's not nanotechnology, it's masking and 6 foot in distance, even though
Right.
originally it was either or.
Right.
And it's the two of them, but these are state guidelines that are issued.
Right.
And executive orders from the governor. They're not ours. And so all that anybody, if they're going to be compliant, can do, our Board of Health or anybody else, is to say, to comply with those guidelines. But the simple ones, really, when you boil it down, are only 4, you know? And so then as part of the condition of this permit, you would say that you're directed, meaning the owner and the operators of this event, as we say with liquor, you know, it's your responsibility to comply with these published guidelines.
So I may be anticipating an idea of Jim's, but along with that, I would actually request that there are servers, there are professional servers that will ferry the drinks outdoors so that the attendees do not need to go into the bar. So that you have serving staff that will go out with the drinks, because that'll take care of the congregating problem.
What about the restrooms?
And the restrooms are restrooms. I think people got to be allowed to use the restrooms.
Well, so a
So
lot of
let me
events have been
finish.
doing are having porta potties outside or some kind of outdoor thing to minimize people going in.
Okay.
Especially given how they think COVID might be transmitted.
So I guess sorry.
Sorry?
Go ahead, Marcia.
I'm not done.
Can I
Oh, sorry.
ask if the people involved with putting this on have contacted our health agent?
Exactly.
Discussed this with him?
We have not, as the nonprofit working with Wedgewood Pines, contacted the Stowe health agent. No, ma'am.
Well, my suggestion would be that you do contact him and get a clear picture of what you can and cannot do. As far as the liquor license is concerned, that's up to the selectmen. But it's all wrapped up in one package. So you need to at least involve our health agent and have a discussion with him and clarify what you're planning on doing, and just so that we make sure that everything is done according to oil. That's all.
Tom, can I make a suggestion?
Yes, Jim.
I'm actually not that concerned about the liquor aspect of it because presumably Wedgewood Pines has a licensed and trained server in both bars, so that aspect is okay. I'm concerned about the COVID thing. I'm going to pick up on Marcia's suggestion. I'm troubled by this, though, Brian, and I'll tell you why. My understanding of the state guidelines, and Bill's absolutely correct, it's the state guidelines that you seem like you have the inside stuff covered by requiring masks because you're over the extremely low threshold. The standards for outdoors right now are masks when you can't socially distance. But the problem is that when you're calling outdoors is a confined outdoor space. Now, I'm not talking about when people are on the course, I'm talking about when they're on the patios. I personally would be inclined to require masks even there because I think the ability to socially distance is going to be constrained. But I prefer to leave that up to the Board of Health. So I'm going to suggest that we do a conditional approval tonight. And that condition is that by our meeting on September 8th, we hear from the Board of Health that you have worked out a plan with them or their health agent that is satisfactory to them.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, I cut you off, Courtney.
Yep. Anything else?
I'd just like to reiterate that I think, I think this is a moment where we're being asked for a liquor license, and it's a liquor license that we're being asked for. And it's an opportunity for us to raise these other concerns, and in a way, it's really not our jurisdiction, so to speak. And I also think it's absolutely awesome that we get to have this conversation. It's really important that this conversation happens. So just noticing how that's falling. And I just want to say, I know you're not allowing a long period of time for you said in the past, Brian, that you've had, kind of a cocktail hour before dinner, so to speak. I just want to make a comment that when people drink, they get more relaxed. They don't think about how far away they are. They don't care. They, I could make this an I statement too, but so it's just a tricky thing. I think sitting at a table, having a conversation, I wouldn't be wearing a mask because I can't drink my beer or whatever it is. So I would ask that you attend to this very carefully and take care of your patrons and your organization, and just do it with extreme care. I'm sure you would like to do that as well.
Absolutely.
All right. In that case, is any more discussion about that?
Do we want to make a motion based on a conditional license, or do we want to?
Well, I think I'm in agreement with a conditional license.
Same,
I think what
yeah.
Jim proposed is reasonable.
Yep.
I suppose one question I've got is, I would imagine you're having the golf tournament whether you get a license or not. It'll just depend on whether you serve alcohol.
Yes, sir.
So one of the things is that if we do a conditional license and we don't have, I'll say, a positive report by September 8th, you won't have a license after that, but at least you can continue with your golf tournament.
We can, thank you.
If that makes sense to everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have one more quick comment.
Yes, Courtney.
This is essentially off the topic of the license again, but maybe there's a way, if you want to have a raffle or some fundraising, that you can do something that people can use their portable devices to bid or buy tickets or whatever, so that you can have a pen-free opportunity for people to give you more money.
Yeah, absolutely, and I appreciate that. We've spent a lot of time brainstorming for the last 6-8 weeks or more about how to do this safely. We've developed an online registration system so people don't have to go through a line. We're using the honor system for mulligans, so we don't have to hand out like little tabs for them. We're trying to do this as safely as possible because, look, this is, we need to raise money, but we need to protect the reputation of our organization. We expect to be here and asking y'all for liquor licenses 15, 20 years from now. And so we want to, we just, it's the right thing to do, and that's what we want to do. So I understand y'all are going to take a vote. So my understanding is that we should work with the health agent of Stowe.
Yes.
And work with, I believe, with him to develop a plan that either he or we will submit to you before your September 8th meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
What time, just for the, I guess I should wait till after the vote, but if you do approve this, how long before the 8th do you need it for your agenda and for your packet?
At least the Thursday before, I think, would be adequate. Friday at the very latest.
Can I ask the name of the health agent?
His name is Jim Gareffi, Gareffi.
What?
Thank you.
One of the
You want
things.
a phone number?
Sure. Yes, please.
978-772-3335. And when you get the operator, just tell her you would like to speak with Mr. Gareffi. Hey, Jim.
One of the.
And I will take
One of the things, Marcia, correct me if I'm wrong, but it would probably make sense for actually this organization, the Decibels Foundation, to work through Wedgewood Pines, because they already have the other licenses to serve food and things like that, which you'll want to make sure is also in. So really, what you should probably do is talk to Wedgewood Pines and make sure that they get a hold of the health agent, who I'm sure they already know, and that they come up with a plan that satisfies the health agent.
But that makes perfect sense, because presumably they will be holding other events there over the next 6-9 months, when she's out of its basically in place, and we'll want to establish good procedures. They may already have them. I just not aware of them.
Well, I don't know about that, because ultimately, in this event, Decibels is going to be the one on the hook.
Yeah.
Moreover, I think, as I understand it, Decibels volunteers will be in charge of the actual event on the patios. So although Wedgewood may be involved, I would think that you need to take the responsibility because you have the responsibility.
Right. It'll be a conference call. Thanks.
Cameron, are you ready for a motion?
I worked up some language that hopefully will include everything.
I think Ellen's got one already, Jim.
Okay.
I propose conditional approval for a special one-day liquor license for the Decibels Foundation for a golf tournament to be held at the Wedgewood Pines Country Club on Monday, September 21st, 2020, between a.m. and 6 p.m., with the stipulation that the Decibels Foundation and/or representatives of Wedgewood Pines meet with the Stowe health agent, I'll give those to you, and report back to the selectmen on September 8th that the organization can meet all appropriate Board of Health guidelines.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It was unanimous. So you've just got to make sure you get the ducks in a row at this point.
We'll arrange our ducks, and I want to apologize for congratulating you on your efficiency of your meeting. It seems that the problem is me. So, thanks for your time, guys. This was a really important conversation.
All right.
Thank you.
It was
I'm
good
sure-
for us too.
Yeah.
It was good for us too. Thank you. And so I guess since it's conditional,
So we don't need to sign
we
anything.
probably don't need to sign it quite at this point. So. Funny how things that usually just go through slick,
Right.
but I guess
To
times
be the
have
first
changed.
one, that's the cost,
Yeah.
being the first one.
All right, now we're on to a discussion about changing the designation of the Board of Selectmen to Select Board. And I suppose, Megan, you
Yep.
asked for it to be brought up.
I
I'll let
did.
you start out.
Great. So we had some correspondence in our last meeting about thinking about changing the name from the Board of Selectmen to the Select Board. We would not be the first in the Commonwealth to be doing this. There are other towns that have done this. And I think that given the fact that not only that this current board is made up of a majority female board, but that we, as a society, need to start thinking about gendered language and who that excludes just by virtue of the fact that it's exclusionary. And so I think we have an opportunity to just make that change, to allow for to allow for it to be just a non-gendered term. And I think select board is the non-gendered term that I would propose. Obviously, I have a stake in it, as I don't identify as a man. I don't want to be called a select woman either. And so I would like to hear what everyone else thinks, because this is obviously it's my 2 cents, but I'd love to hear everyone else.
I would concur.
Thanks, Courtney.
Yeah, I think it's overdue, so I think it's not just for the 5 of us, it's for all future possible representatives, and just, I mean, really, for kids still, the fact that we still use that default, I think it's time for us to move to something more general.
Yeah, it was funny because that you say that, because my daughter and my son, I had the conversation, and they were like, oh, like they said to me, oh, you're a selectman, you're not a man. And I'm like, I understand, I was an English major, like I understand this masculine, feminine default to men. I get it. It's just, I feel like I'd like my kids to feel like, or in any kids, and anybody really, that doesn't, I mean, people that don't identify with a male or female gender, to feel like they can have a place in town government and in this town. Now I'll really stop talking. I was trying to find a part of the charter that refers to gender.
So I'd like to clarify, because we had this discussion, probably 6 months ago, or maybe a little more. And at the time I said that I didn't feel the need to be called out as a woman on a board of, so I didn't want to be a select woman, as you said. And I think the reason that I am happy to actually support a couple of different arguments on this is because I don't personally have a strong opinion. I have worked among men much of my life, and I've just gotten used to it. I think our moderator suggested that we just be select thingies, and in all levity. It's not a personal issue, and I just wanted to kind of go on record that look like I'm changing my opinion, but I do think it's a time when language is changing, and I struggle with the new use of the pronoun they, but I understand that we're seeking a way to express ourselves around things that we do that is different from the way it's been expressed before, and to clarify it. So.
Jim?
When this came up, it was actually more like a year and a half ago, Courtney, I think.
Okay.
I think my position then was, as soon as I'm on a board with a female who thinks that the name should be changed, I'm in favor of it. And so I'm in favor of it. But I'm actually in favor, or at least not at all opposed, for several other reasons. I do want to note, though, I think somebody has to say this, that there is no actual glass ceiling to being a female Stowe select person. Our first female selectman was elected 40 years ago, and if there was a glass ceiling, nobody told Pat Walrath, because she went on to I don't know how many terms as a selectman and then as a state rep. But I'm in favor of it because there could always be the perception of a glass ceiling, and that's important. But also, there is a trend. Megan hinted at it, but right now, almost a third of the towns in Massachusetts are select boards rather than select men. And it's so much of a trend that the MSA changed its name earlier this year from the Mass Selectmen's Association to Select Board Association. When you get to that kind of a level, I start being concerned that if you resist the trend, you send an unintentional message. And I don't want to send that message of being against this trend. I know that there's an argument that we'll probably hear that historically this is important. And I can respect that, but among the towns that have changed to select board, are ones very close to us with a similar rural character and I think a similar love of their own history. Foxborough, Harvard, Berlin have all taken the leap to being select boards. So I actually don't regard this as really that controversial, and I believe the specific proposal is going to be to send it on to town meeting as town council has suggested. I'm certainly in favor of doing that.
And, you know, much along, my feeling is much as Jim said, you know, it's probably about time. I don't have a strong feeling that we need to do it. I've always felt that I've respected my female colleagues on the board with, you know, the same respect that I had for anybody else. It's never been an issue to me, but if the feeling is that this is the way to go, I'm definitely not opposed to it. So it's so I think it's probably time to move it forward. I think town council has given us a pathway. I would not want to, personally, I wouldn't want to, even if we could, decide this issue on our own. I think it should go to town meeting. And given the guidance from town council, I think, you know, probably the best way to do this is to put together a subcommittee. But
Why do we need a subcommittee?
to determine what needs to be changed in the charter.
Bill, can I ask you another question? About the...
Can I finish,
sorry. Yeah,
please?
sorry.
You know, to determine what needs to be changed in the charter, the bylaws, the expense, and put it together and make a proposal to town meeting on you know, what this entails. That's my thought. You know, I don't think you want to just take it in and jump up at town meeting and say we want to change the name, because then you will invariably end up with a lot of questions. So a well thought out plan, what has to happen, how it's going to affect everything, and why it should go forward, and making a recommendation to a town meeting. You know, but again, that's only my 2 cents worth. So I don't know what anybody else would think as far as you know, the path forward to taking it to town meeting.
Well, I had 2 questions I wanted to ask the town council before this discussion to find out that, you know, what exactly, basically what town council said was that some towns have gone as far as referendum. That didn't seem necessary, that town meeting was probably enough, but that wasn't the end of the conversation. So, I mean, because the question is, you know, do we start using it today? You know, what, you know, do we have, I'm just not clear on I was hoping to have more information by tonight on what exactly is legally required of us.
Well, you know,
So,
I
could have gotten that, but.
Well, I think, you know, that town council was, you know, pretty clear in the note that he sent back to you. You know, some places, you know, take it to town meeting and then they actually petition the legislature. I don't think I agree with them that I don't think we need to do that, but it should go to town meeting, and I think it, you know, even if we could change the name, I don't think it's right for us to make that decision. That's what town meeting's for. You know, again, my personal opinion. Jim?
Tom, if we're going to send it to town meeting, I don't think we should change the name before it goes to town meeting. That seems inadvisable. It's disrespectful of town meeting, and also what if they don't agree? Then it has to get changed back. I don't know that I am on board with this idea of a subcommittee. Although I do think we need a little bit more explanation out of town council. I thought what he was saying was a vote of town meeting implicitly conditioned on changing the charter would be good enough to make it effective. Those questions you raised, I don't feel like I need a subcommittee to answer those questions. I think basically there's a presentation saying the things we just said. That's the in favor presentation, and then I'm sure somebody has an against presentation. For me, it's more a question of, is it annual town meeting or special town meeting? I would suggest annual, just for the sake of legitimacy, and hopefully a bigger crowd. But I think reasonable minds could differ on that.
And hopefully COVID will be done by then.
You wish.
Megan, I think you had some other comments?
Yeah, I guess it's more about the charter. I had pulled stuff up trying to figure out what people were thinking in 1991, which it looks like that's the last time the charter was updated. Bill, what is section 7 for, number and gender? What do you know what that was referring to? Because as an English major, as somebody with a master's in writing, I could not tell you what that section means.
I couldn't tell you. I wasn't here when it was created.
Gotcha.
We haven't enacted it or evaluated it.
Okay.
But we have, it's been updated more recently than it was.
Right.
Charter committee probably
2006.
10, 12 years ago when it was.
Okay. It's
And
not
so
on the
it
website.
has been modified.
Oh, I see. The amendments are on it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, that makes more sense.
I would just say this with regard to process, that I strongly would say that you would want this to be approved by the legislative body. I think things that need to be thought through a bit more than just changing the word. And definitions should be precise, and so I agree with all of that. Leave aside genders or anything else. Language should express fact and reality. And and look, the fact was, back in the day, it was Selectmen. That's why it was created that way. Men who were dominating in those areas. That's no longer true. But I think what you want to be able to do is to articulate to the town meeting is, okay, what will be the impact? Not on the board, because it's clear. You're going to call yourself something differently. But where does it appear, especially in the governance agreement and our bylaws? And so someone's going to have to do the evaluative process saying, okay, the language has to change here, there,
Right.
and other places. Also, letterhead. And there are just practical implications that will result that I think, to avoid those questions at town meeting that would, if answered in advance, you don't want to muddle a question up. You want to be able to say, yep,
Right.
we spent 6 months analyzing, here will be the impacts, here's where they'll be. There are some questions, our position is this, council's that, just so that you get in there and you basically want to narrow the focus to the issue itself, not let process or impacts, intended or otherwise, not having been thought about by somebody that can work that through, and then you spend a few meetings leading up to it, going through all of that, inviting public comment, that kind of thing, as you do for most other substantive issues that we go through, and this is, to me, a substantive one. You'd certainly want that decision, hopefully, to be in perpetuity. Now, our culture's changing, and our language with regard to identifying individuals is changing, so you'd want to, I think, consider that as well.
I lost my train of thought. I had a question, sorry. All right, sorry.
I suppose one of the things is I think, while we haven't taken a vote at this point, I think we're all pretty much in agreement that we want to take it towards town meeting. And, we're going to have a new town administrator starting next week. We can think about it, and if you want, I'll put it on a future agenda and you can think about how the best way forward might be, and then we can think about it at that point. But at least at this point, we know that we want to take it forward to town meeting, and we can hash out the details in the future.
I think it would be beneficial for us to also look at what other towns have done. If they've gone through this process, let's not reinvent the wheel. Like, they've obviously had to go through the same kinds of things that we had to go through. And so it might be, is it Natick? Especially like Boxborough and the towns that are closer to us that have done it. So I think, while I don't know that we need to have a subcommittee, I definitely do think that we need to have, multiple sort of conversations about the steps of it, but.
I think it's the perfect situation for a working group from the town administrator.
Oh.
It's more about
Yeah.
doing a subcommittee that's appointed by the board structurally is going to be limited with regard to flexibility. The town administrator with a couple of people that she wishes to take with her, to look at that. I would say this, we want to ensure that when we're comparing governance agreements, because most towns don't have a charter, which is home rule petition approved by the legislature, and so bylaws, sure, I think everybody's got bylaws,
Yeah.
but what you'd want to do is make sure that the governance agreement, because that's what it is, it's the foundation by which you make all decisions, even more importantly than bylaw. But as a practical matter, you can call yourself select board anytime you wish to.
Great.
So in the end, what it's going to do is effectuate an understanding of how you're going to speak to one another. There's no prescription under the law or expectation, I think, by any of us in town to say you can't begin to exercise that right if you wish to. That'd be my own opinion if I am a select person in the community, but that's the way I would approach it then, to say, look, nothing prohibits us from relating to ourselves that way, and it's not that frequently with select board, that term, in your conversations with one another or even other people. It's how you identify yourself formally through letters and letterhead and correspondence and governance agreement, because it's an identifier. So over that period of time, as you're developing the particulars and the impacts intended or otherwise, I think you can pretend that you are, that is what the official nomenclature is. And who would be, I don't know that would offend anybody. But today, people can get offended.
I've actually had people say to me, I've sort of probably said Board of Selectmen to people, and they've sort of said, you mean Select Board?
Yeah.
So I've begun to just use them interchangeably or whatever, and in recognition of the change that other towns have made.
Right.
And so to me, there's a fluidity that just kind of starting to make that substitution, because it is actually an adjustment too.
It won't be as impactful or meaningful when you use the term select board. It will be individually. Are you a select person? Are you a member of the select board?
Right.
That's where the application is going to
Right.
have its impact. It's not that term itself. What individually, do you want to identify yourself as or be called?
I'm just going to say I'm select.
Well, that's true. I just say it because you're on the board.
That's good.
And
That
the thing
was
is-
that was a good line.
The thing is, someone may take offense at that too at some point.
Well, thank you, Bill. That actually is really helpful.
Yes, that is very helpful.
I would just suggest we have a very specific question to ask town council, which is like, what are the steps we need to do to bring this to town meeting? Because he basically said just like everything else in Massachusetts, every town is doing it slightly differently. And as you said, not everybody has our charter. Well, they don't have our charter.
Right.
So he knows our charter. He knows like what the language is.
Yeah, I think that's the easy part. I think it's going through your documents and other things saying,
Yeah.
here's what will have to change and why.
Right.
And there might be some questionable areas. So I think we all agree that deliverables going to town meeting, getting it blessed, and I think that would probably secure and protect any legal obligation, but he can identify that soon. I think he just wants some folks to start going through documents, giving some thought about when these terms are used and how. Like I said, for me, it'd be more on an individual basis, where if you're going to call select board, I think at the same time, you want to say we're going to individually select person, however, that kind of thing, because that's where the term gets used more frequently, at least in my experience.
Jim?
So why don't we, sort of picking up on Bill's working group idea, why don't we ask the town administrator to investigate the legal and practical requirements of making this change with an eye toward bringing it to a future town meeting and report back to us at the earliest possible time.
Second.
Not only her discretion to talk to anybody or everybody she wants to talk to, which will be fine with the open meeting law. And it'll move this ball forward.
Great. Did
All right.
you get that, Maureen?
All right.
So that's a motion to ask the town administrator to investigate the legal and practical, what was the word I used? Issues in changing the name of the board to Select Board, with an eye toward bringing it to the earliest, would bring it to a town meeting and reporting back to us at the earliest possible time.
I still second the motion.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jim? Aye. So that's unanimous.
All right, great.
All right. And then town administrator's report, I think you're pretty much done already?
The plan comes together once in a while, you don't have to repeat yourself.
Yeah. All right, so.
Denise and I are meeting again Friday.
Mhm.
We're continuing just to discuss things, and I'll add this to her list of matters, including the ones that I've been involved in, and now she's going to, but we've got started with that, so.
Great.
We're in good shape, and I told her I'd be out of that seat by the time she comes in, so.
All right. Go to the liaison reports, and unless anybody has anything that they think Bill needs, does anybody mind if Bill goes?
No.
I'm sorry.
Thank you very much.
You know.
Bill?
Thank you, Bill.
It's been a good ride.
I'm standing here in Maine.
All right, Jim, I know you've been liaisoning from Maine, right?
Yeah, I haven't been doing a lot. I had one meeting, Complete Streets postponed. I do have a library trustees meeting tomorrow night, but I'm not zooming in.
Thank you for coming by.
And I've reached out to David Maynard. I haven't heard anything back, and I think that's about it.
Can you turn up the, oh, well, he stopped knocking, but is there a way to turn up volume so we can hear him a little better? That's enough.
I suddenly lost you.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
It's just soft.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was just.
I can hear you, but,
Okay. It's all right.
Yes, I can hear you.
I can barely hear you guys.
yeah, it looks like the volume's all the way up to 100.
Okay.
Courtney?
Community Preservation Committee met. They have an application for Halleck's Point for $400,000 in CPA funds. I was unable to attend the meeting and just caught up on that, and they have, the process basically is to get the application, and then there's a variety of steps before it gets commended to town meetings. We're not there yet. I think the further discussion on that is that the request is $400,000 in CPA funds. There will be a fundraising effort for $100,000, and the thought is to sell 2 house lots for hoped for $250 each to total the price that's being asked for the land. I am looking forward to an opportunity to joining in the EDIC, but have not yet been able to connect with that group, and that's it for me.
Helen?
So I did with MAPC and Magic, and I have to say I'm not really always clear. I feel like I'm talking to the same people, different crowds, but they did a great training last week actually on finance, municipal finance, that I sent around a recording to Erica at Finance Committee for her new people, and also I think to Megan, but if anybody else wants to see it, they've done this whole series of trainings for new selectmen, it was really good. There was also a really interesting conversation around virtual town meeting, which Lexington and, now I'm going to forget the other town, somewhere a little further south, did. Oh, I probably wrote it down actually. Stoughton. And it was just interesting to hear, these were both representative town meeting towns, and they had to get an act of the legislature to allow it, and they've been allowed, but open town meetings have not been allowed yet, partly because that's a whole different challenge. But it was really interesting to hear sort of what was involved in making it work, and they said, both towns said there's a lot that they learned in that process that they will continue to do regardless of whether they go back to in-person or not, because of the education basically that was required. Sort of the same way we had to get the packets, and we had them more available than usual for the summer meeting, where you could find them online or whatever. When you can't presume you're going to have a presentation, it was really helpful. So that was a great meeting. I had a call today with Magic people around COVID, and it wasn't a big group, but it was interesting to hear sort of what people have been talking about town-wide, sort of how towns are responding, with the money that's available, that Magic has money available for regional work. We discussed maybe they're going to be researching the idea that we could have a regional testing facility within the Magic towns for asymptomatic people. That's largely based on my experience on the Vineyard, which is, it just me, it's so much better when it's easy to get tested than people aren't, it's not, you're not so stressed out, and especially with schools opening. So, one of the towns that was on the call was talking about their emergency planning committee, that they're actually been taking the lead on it, and the people in the Vineyard had MRC, and I was wondering what happened to our MRC. It used to be quite active, and I haven't heard from them recently, but so that was that. We got the information from Minuteman in the packet, so I won't repeat that. What were the other ones I put? I think that was it. Yeah, that's all.
Megan?
So planning board is meeting tonight, opposite this, and they also were having a joint committee meeting with the Lower Village Revitalization Subcommittee. So they've got that. They had, let's see, I was sent a proposal for Stowe Acres, like sort of a idea of how, what they're thinking about for developing Stowe Acres. The development company, not the planning board. And then, what else? So I want to follow back up on those things. I know that Lori is going to put on the agenda or mention to them starting to think about a master plan. Because it is under the purview of the planning board, but then the Board of Selectmen are the ones that actually put the committee together for the master plan review. It's supposed to be done every 10 years. It is overdue at this point. And I think that given the fact that we have a golf course and another large plot of land that is being looked at for redevelopment, it is time to sort of have a new master plan of what Stowe's going to look like in the next 10 or 15 years. And I think Lori is in agreement with that in the conversations I've had with her. So I think they're going to start, thinking about that, and then we'll have to, as the board, obviously put the subcommittee together for that. I also was on the Lake Boone Commission meeting the other night, and they had just requested clarification on the dam and where that stands, and so I got in touch. Steve Nadeau got right back with a ton of information for me, so I was able to pass that along, which I really appreciated. And then the only other one was Town Hall restoration, which we're just in the process of crossing T's and dotting I's and figuring out next steps with the architect, which obviously all 3 of you already know about because we're all the same. And then as far as the school committee goes, they're still trying to work out a reopening plan. And so I sort of have just been paying attention as a parent, less so as the representative, but have reached out to the Stowe representatives to just, if they need anything, just let me know. I think I missed like also 3 other subcommittees, but I'm not doing anything with those right now, so that's that. And Tom.
All right. Highway Department is finishing up a lot of work. They've got a couple more streets that they're going to be finishing up once they contract with some subcontractors. And hopefully they'll get some of the downed trees off the sidewalks. But given their work schedule and being a little short-handed, they're doing the best they can and trying to get everything done. And the fire department, it's kind of interesting because they had been very slow for a while when COVID first hit, and they've been flat out in the last month and a half. In the past, when we only had 1 ambulance, the idea was to keep the second one in case the first one died or something like that, or something more happened. But talking to Chief Landry, there have been times lately that he's had both ambulances out, they come back and they go out within a half an hour. So, and it doesn't have anything to do with COVID other than potentially people having let medical conditions go longer than they might have otherwise. So that, and one of the other things that I was talking to him about the other day too is I'm trying to think of the best way to put it, but the COVID money, the CARES Act money, now that the federal government has started handing out a lot of money, they are now starting to audit things much more. And one would think that, him being able to produce a receipt for 5,000 masks for $5,000 would satisfy them. Apparently it's not. They want to know unit price, when they got the masks, who they gave them to, and on what date. So it brings up the concept of what kind of audits if they're auditing masks to that level. I'm sure that there are some places where a couple skids of masks might have gone walkabout in large cities out of large warehouses. It's not happening here, but we do have to be very careful about what we end up spending the money on, because they are going to want fine detail much more than Chief Landry ever thought that they would want. So
So the state site that tracks how much people have applied says that we've only applied for 27,000 in reimbursement out of 630,000.
Well, it's 630 that was made available to us.
Right.
And those are the needs that we had. All of the town departments and boards know that if they have something that's directly related. Now, if somebody comes in and says, can I buy this with COVID money? And they say no, and if I can't, I'm not going to buy it. Well, they shouldn't have bought it.
I'm just looking at the list that
Right.
the state has released of things that we can spend it on. It just seems like we're not taking advantage of it as much as we could. I'm concerned that's why I really feel like we should be having a larger, around the table with the key committees, or the key departments really, that, Council on Aging, the food pantry, obviously public safety, And I don't know how the money with the schools work when it's a regional school district. I don't know if they have different money, or if we're supposed to be sharing part of our money with the 3 towns. But, I mean, one of the things that came up on the Magic Call was, unemployment rates and what the impact is on the town. So, this isn't about the CARES money, but it's really about the longer term impact of COVID on us. Our unemployment in March was 1.6, this is for Stowe, 1.6%. In August, as of last week, 8.5%.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty dramatic, and I think that's, and as another person on the call who was from Carlisle was saying, we're a residential town, so it's all about, are our people still working so they can pay their taxes,
Right.
Right.
And I think if that's going to be an issue, then we need to be thinking about, if nothing else, what's the impact on our budget if people can't pay their tax bills anymore?
Right.
So, I mean, I think we're so overdue for having a much larger discussion that's not just asking the fire chief to track numbers or to have the Board of Health fall on them constantly, because it's really much more about the whole town.
Yeah.
And if the Board of Selectmen don't pull it together, I don't know who will.
Yeah.
So.
Tom?
Chief
Tom,
Landry.
Oh,
Yes.
Fire Chief.
How are you?
Good. Any chance, just a quick comment, just so everybody knows, on the CARES especially, that can only be submitted after all other sources have been exhausted relative to certain things. And as of right now, we've applied for just about $100,000 worth. I got a grant for $36,000, which could have been under CARES if another federal grant didn't do it. I just received that confirmation today.
That's great.
For some public safety stuff. I have submitted $26,000 to the public assistance grants, which is a requirement prior to submitting to CARES. So what we've been doing, what's been taking a lot, is trying to put these things through a certain system to get them to a point where if I can't get it there, then I can put it to CARES. So we are working on that. A couple other things we're working on. I'm working with the custodians of all the public buildings at this point to come up with a good organized system for decontamination. We don't want to go out and spend $100,000 on electrostatic foggers to end up finding out that those don't work in the office space because they put some sort of you can't have electronics or things. So we've got a small working group of the people that do the disinfecting that are looking at, and that's going to be a large purchase. So the one thing with the CARES is we got to be careful is when the $600,000 is up, it's up.
Right.
And we don't want to go pushing for stuff right now. This is just my thought without a little bit more deeper thought on what our needs are. Then find out we've already spent $500,000 and we need $200,000 for some, a large-scale disinfecting system. As the schools have their own application process for public assistance grants, and the schools also have another CARES. It's a separate fund that's been put in for public education. So currently, I've been working with the school department a little bit, just trying to make sure that their needs are being met, and they do. They've responded back that they have their avenues, which is outside of the $630,000. But that's where we're at right now. Just a quick update.
That's great. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
That's really helpful.
Yeah, that's helpful.
And congratulations on the $36,500 grant you got.
Yeah, thank you.
You beat me to it. But
So I have a question that might have been in public, I don't know where we would have put it, or it could be a private question. I am interested in the select board having a retreat or more than one retreat. And I just toss that out there for a future discussion. It would be a noticed meeting where we would spend some time doing other kinds of work than we might do in our regularly scheduled meetings. And it would be a sort of bigger chunk of time for us to work on things with our new town administrator and to get to know each other. And I am very much in favor of that, given all that is, all the opportunities that we could could work through in a bigger time slot.
Yeah, I would be in favor of something like that for sure. I think it's hard, the way that this meeting is structured, which is the way that it should be structured, to have any kind of off-the-cuff discussions or things that happen to pop up at the last minute. And so I think it would be nice to sort of to meet separately about structure and stuff. And I think it would be great to have that with Denise, because we are going to be working with her, and it would be nice to figure that all out.
We can talk about that.
Great.
Anything else properly before the board?
Any other news
Can
on
I
board?
add one thing on the coronavirus discussion? One of the challenges for you, well, when we do have a discussion, I also would like to have a comprehensive discussion. But one of the challenges for you and the new town administrator is that different aspects of this issue require different people to be at the table and possibly different solutions. So enforcement, for example, which I definitely want to talk about, especially with apple picking season coming up, clearly requires the Board of Health and possibly the police department, since that's who the governor's order gives that authority to. Communication requires different people. Funding requires the fire department, possibly others. So I would ask you, before we have that conversation, to have a specific agenda so that you and presumably the town administrator can make sure that the right people are there to discuss the things we want to talk about.
All right. Do I have a motion?
I would move to adjourn.
Anybody want to second that?
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Raise your hand, Jim. All right. Thank you. Jim, have a nice rest.